A retired British Army officer had a mystery illness after meeting with two men suspected of poisoning ex-FSB officer Alexander Litvinenko with polonium-210, an inquiry has heard. Tim Reilly, a director at security firm Erinys, suffered migraines and vomiting after meeting Russians Andrei Lugovoi and Dmitri Kovtun with Mr Litvinenko. He said Mr Lugovoi called him after Mr Litvinenko's death to deny involvement. Heaving radiation levels were later found in the London firm's boardroom. Mr Litvinenko, a former Russian security service officer who became a vocal critic of the Kremlin and fled to Britain, died of radiation poisoning after drinking tea laced with polonium at a Mayfair hotel in November 2006. The barrister representing Mr Litvinenko's family claims he was murdered for trying to expose the corruption at the heart of Vladimir Putin's mafia state. The public inquiry into his death has heard that Mr Litvinenko had been poisoned twice, with one occasion around the time of the security company meeting in October of 2006. Mr. Reilly told the hearing he became very ill around the time of the meeting. "I went home, unusually for me I got home about 19:30 GMT and I went to bed. I had migraine symptoms. I threw up," he said. "I've never had an illness like it before and I've never had one since." Atomic weapons experts later found heaving levels of radioactive contamination in the boardroom at Erinys, leading to the offices being closed for 4 months, the court heard. Clumsy weapon. Mr. Reilly, a former British Army officer with the Parachute Regiment, who speaks fluent Russian, said that after news of Mr. Litvinenko's death on November 23, Mr. Lugovoi called him from the British Embassy in Moscow. The ex-KGB bodyguard told him he had nothing to do with the murder, before turning the conversation to business matters, Mr. Reilly said. Mr. Litvinenko had introduced Mr. Reilly to Mr. Lugovoi as a Russian contact who might be able to broker a meeting with senior executives at the Russian gas giant Gazprom, with a view to discussing a security contract. Mr. Reilly said he had been pretty stunned to learn that Mr. Litvinenko, who was also working for British intelligence services at the time, had been poisoned. He said it struck him that the nature of the weapon was of a state asset and its use in this case had been clumsy. "My conclusion from that weapon was that it was a signal on behalf of somebody, not necessarily just for poor Sasha and his family, but to a wider Russian community abroad," he said. Both Andrei Lugovoi and Dmitri Kovtun deny any involvement in the murder, and remain in Russia.